Hi, my name is Greg L. Thomas. Today I want to talk to you about public speaking. So this is not our actual course on public speaking. This is kind of like, I guess you could call it a teaser. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be included in the public speaking course. So just to get right to it, public speaking oftentimes it's something that we all know how to do. We just don't know how to organize it into frameworks or to be able to control the anxiety to be able to say the things that we say. But if you would think about it, in everyday conversation, one-on-one, that's what we're doing, public speaking. We don't really think about frameworks. Those frameworks are naturally embedded in us. And so when we're having a conversation with someone, basically, we introduce a concept, which is a hook. We explain it, and then we prove it. And so that's the basic framework of public speaking. Anything that you're talking about is the hook. It's either a question or an explanation, or you're declaring something, and then you explain it in detail, and you prove it. That's simply, that's it. That's public speaking 101 in its essence. But oftentimes we make it more difficult than what it actually is because of our fear. And so fear is one of the most important things that we have to learn to overcome. And just to be fair, fear is something, or anxiety is something that all public speakers experience. I don't care what level you're on. If you're Les Brown or T.D. Jakes, I mean, all of the greats say that they experience this anxiety or fear. But oftentimes what allows them to be able to overcome it is the knowledge base and having a framework to use. So one of the things we're going to talk about first is breathing, because I don't care how much you know that anxiety will paralyze you, and I don't care how smart you are, anxiety will paralyze you. So we have to work on the breathing technique. So the first thing we're going to talk about is box breathing, okay? So what box breathing is you breathe in, you count to 4, and then you hold it for 4. And then you exhale for 4. Hold it for 4. Breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And release it for 4. All right. So once you exercise this breathing technique before a public speaking event or before you get up and speak, this should subside some of your nervousness. Okay. So the second thing is having confidence, because the more confidence you have, the better performance that you'll have as a speaker. Okay. So the confidence is built by knowing your content, what you're going to speak about. And so if you know what you're going to speak about, if you understand the subject matter that you're going to speak about, then it builds a level of confidence that subsides some of the fear. Okay? So after you have confidence, then you have to have an organized way of being able to deliver the speech. So if you would notice that some people use notes. All right. So the worst thing to do as a public speaker is to actually read your speech. Okay. Because we want to sound as authentic as possible. And if you start reading a speech, then you're kind of going to lose people, because people are going to know that you're inauthentic. So you want to be able to speak as much as possible without using notes. And so you have to have a framework to do that. So the framework is what we call modules, okay? So what modules are a bunch of small speeches contained within one large speech. So if I wanted to give a speech, I would have to start off with a hook. So let's just say that I was giving a sermon at a church. I would start off with, let's just say, Proverbs 22 and 28. Do you know someone who is skilled at their work? They shall serve before kings, they shall not serve before obscure men. Okay, so now that I've declared a scripture, which is my authority, that my speech is gonna be based upon, now I have to explain it, because that scripture doesn't give enough context into what I'm trying to say. So now I give a little context. I say that is God speaking through King Solomon, and what he's trying to say through King Solomon is that when you become skilled at your talent and develop your craft, that you'll become a master, and you won't have to find people, that people will find you, basically. That you won't have to post what you do on Facebook, people will find you. And then you give an example. You say LeBron James, you give a story about LeBron James. I do. LeBron James, when he was still in high school, St. Mary, St. Vincent, he never went to college. And then I give a story about when LeBron James went to Massachusetts to meet with Reebok before he had a contract, before he had any money, and how he turned down the contract for $10 million. And the reason why is because LeBron James knew his value. And so now I'm giving examples, or explaining, and also giving proof to what I originally stated, which was the scripture, which was the authority. That when you become excellent at your work, excellence will find you, and God will bring you before important people that the world will want to hear or know about who you are. Okay? And that is a module. All right? And so what happens after the module, we have to transition into another module to support it. Booker T. Washington was a slave. Not only was he a slave, he was a slave who taught himself how to read, how to write. And then I go into Booker T. Washington, how he founded Tuskegee University, and what he was best known for, his famous speech, The Atlanta Compromise, and I give a little context around that. Then I go into other examples and stories, and that's the construction of a full speech. So the way you practice that is, you practice it by stories that you know about. You opening hook, you explain it, and you prove it with the stories. So one of the things that I like to leave you guys with is a practice that I do, and it's called impromptu speaking. So what I'll do is I'll choose a title. I'll pick a random word like umbrella. Okay, let's just say umbrella. And I'll say, when I was young, I had a friend named Yellow. My friend Yellow used to had a friend named Umbrella. Umbrella was not your typical type of friend. Umbrella was cool, but sometimes I didn't get along with Umbrella. So you just start creating a story. It doesn't have to be true, but what it does is it trains your mind to be creative through the impromptu speaking, so that when you're actually speaking in front of a group of people, that not only do you rely upon your knowledge base of the information of the topic that you're talking about, but it teaches you to build upon the stories and to carry them along, and they sound more authentic than you just operating within, the framework itself. All right. So we're going to go into more depth in the actual training of public speaking, but I just wanted to give a little summary of what we're going to be covering so that you can understand that this is not your traditional public speaking class. This is a public speaking class that's going to take you from not being able to give a speech to being able to give a speech without notes and give an effective, sincere, authentic speech without using any notes whatsoever. All right? All right. Thank you. Listen, I appreciate you guys again. My name is Greg L. Thomas, and I look forward to speaking with you and having a lot of fun with this class. All right? All right.